My name is Jim Roth, and it's my privilege to serve as the Dean here at Oklahoma City University School of Law. And welcome to this afternoon's roundtable. We wanted to make ourselves available to listen and to hear you and to provide information to the extent we can to any questions that you might have. We have our admin council present, most of them anyway, and so we're going to begin with some introductions from each of them, and then we have received a few submitted questions, and then we want to open the floor. So while we're handling the introductions, please be thinking about what topics or questions you would like to discuss. So I see Dean House first. Dean House, we'll let you begin, please.
Hi, I'm Alana House. I'm the Assistant Dean for Student Services. I'm pretty sure I've met most of you already, but it's really good to see you here.
Dean Dalley.
I'm not on mute, so I guess that's why I can't unmute myself. I'm the Paula Dalley, the Associate Dean for Academic Affairs. I think most of you know who I am or have seen me, sorry I can't see more of you around the building. It's good to see you, or at least your names on the Zoom.
Agreed. Professor Foster.
Good afternoon. I think I've met most of you, but if not, my name is Stephen Foster. I'm the Director of Academic Achievement along with Dean House and Dean Dalley. It is really good to see you all. We can't wait until we can see each other more regularly in the building, and definitely ready to hear kind of your thoughts and kind of ideas that you all have.
Stephen, congrats to our first-time bar takers and the results last week. Really strong showing, so thank you for your efforts. Dean Butler.
Afternoon, everyone. I am Assistant Dean Stephen Butler. I oversee advancement in marketing, communications, and alumni affairs. So I'm probably the person of the admin team you'll see the least during your 3 years here. But as soon as you graduate, I'll become your new best friend. And so I'm working to make sure that you have a great experience during these 3 years as well. So, thanks.
That's great. Thank you, Stephen. Dean PRILLIMAN.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jennifer PRILLIMAN, Associate Dean for Administration. And like everyone else said, excited to see you here. Hopefully get to see some of you in person soon.
Excellent. Dean Gunter.
Hello, everyone. My name is Michelle Gunter. I'm the Assistant Dean of Admissions, and I'm super excited to be here. For those who don't know, you're probably used to seeing Dean Jones's name attached to that, but she retired this summer, and so I am thankful to be able to be here. And I'm really thankful for you all being able to share your experiences. It makes a huge difference in being able to recruit the next class and understanding what you all are facing and how we're able to handle those challenges. So thank you all.
And we're thrilled you were here. Welcome. Cheryl Morgan.
Hi, everyone. I'm Cheryl Morgan. I'm the Executive Assistant to Dean Roth, and I'm here in the Dean's office, and I am here Monday through Friday, almost all day. So if you need anything, please feel free to stop by the office.
Thank you. Dean Peoples.
Yes, thank you. Lee Peoples, Associate Dean of Library and Technology. You probably heard from me about library stuff, Zoom stuff, and other technology things. So look forward to visiting with you all in a little bit today.
Good. Thank you all for introducing yourselves. I also want to say thank you and a shout out to Peyton McMillin, who's here, our SBA president. Peyton, thank you for making yourself available to me and channeling information and making us aware of student issues and student reactions. I'm grateful that you've joined us here today. So with that, let's go ahead and turn to the questions that were submitted in advance. Dean House.
Sure. So one question that we received was, if the building is shut down for any reason, would students still be able to use the building for studying?
Sure. Thank you. And let me first begin with a thank you to all of our students, staff, and faculty that are taking serious the precautions necessary this semester. I'm happy to say at the midpoint of September that your efforts have allowed us to remain mostly in person in many respects. And we are attempting to do that every day of this semester and perhaps this school year to the extent the facts and circumstances allow that. If those facts and circumstances were to change, meaning that the university were to make a decision that we were forced to go fully online, like we were last March, I must imagine that the university would make a similar decision that it did last spring by closing the entire building facility. Unfortunately for all of us, it is a difficult reality, particularly when you're forced to be online and at home and not have access to these services. But as we attempted to do late in the semester and into the summer, maybe we can still make some services otherwise available. But it's a guessing game at this point, but if I were asked to guess, I would have to say the university most likely would close the facilities again if they felt we could not educate in person as well. Dean House, other questions?
Yes, this was from a first-year student, and that student wanted to know how they can stay connected and get involved at OCU Law.
Yeah, so this is a tougher question. This question kind of hurts my heart, actually, because we have really made tremendous effort for our students' sake to create what we call community. We are intentionally working to create interactions for each of you, to get to know each other, to get to know your professors better, to get to know staff that is supporting you better, which has proven, unfortunately, a bit elusive this year under these facts. We have a number of ideas that we have been sharing amongst our admin council, some of which have gotten a little bit tougher because of the university's decision this week to actually lower the number of people that can gather officially in student groups and university-sponsored events from 50 to 10. So it's tougher to get an entire class together or share different sections amongst each other. So we have a number of ideas that we're still working through, but I think this might be best answered by ideas from our students. I wonder if maybe either by class or by section or perhaps across the entire student body that we should probably open up this question, Dean House, and seek input. Maybe send out a survey of some ideas. You know, we've talked about Scissortail Park. We've talked about functions at the drive-in. We've talked about maybe functions outside at the zoo, right? Now, as it's getting colder, maybe some of those opportunities become more limited. But we have been scratching our head trying to figure out how to make sure that we can still create those opportunities. So let me pause there though. Peyton, you might have some thoughts, or maybe you've heard from some others about different ideas of engagement, but let me open up this thought, or this question rather, to any of our students that are participating. You can either share something by chat or share it audibly now. And we'll probably follow up with an email questionnaire on this subject because it is very important and something we remain committed to when facts allow. Any thoughts from anyone?
One thing that just comes to mind automatically is, I know when I was a 1L, the biggest kind of comfort to me was my study groups that I had with my friends. And I know that study groups can easily be done on Zoom. And so I really encourage all the 1Ls to, you know, get that core group of friends together and make connections that way as well. And then also the 1L class officer elections are coming up. So if you are interested in getting involved, that is a great opportunity. And in addition to that, the student organizations are trying to recruit members to get involved. So check those out, and I encourage you to get involved in any way you can.
Thank you, Peyton. Clay, I think I saw you'd raise your hand.
Yeah, I was just going to say, to kind of build off of what Peyton said with student organizations, this week, a lot of the student orgs have started to meet via Zoom, and that's a great way to get connected. I know it's a little bit different than what people are used to, but I attended 2 meetings yesterday, and they're going really well. So just stay tuned and look out for the emails that will get sent out to the 1Ls.
Yeah, great idea. Thank you.
I had another thing as well. So a lot of the student organizations, since they normally do events throughout the year. So if you are interested in a particular group, I know a couple of the meetings that I went to, we're planning on having sort of after hour, hangout and chat, sort of catch up with each other, sort of outside of school. And obviously it's going to be sort of related to the student organization, but just to get to know the people that maybe you don't see in class all the time. But that was one of our ideas, just to have a virtual meeting and hang out and make it less formal.
Mm-hmm. That's a great idea. Other thoughts, please?
Dean, one event is a little bit different, and the interaction will be different, but on September 24th, we're holding a drive-in event at the Winchester in South Oklahoma City that will be open to alumni, students, faculty, and staff. So be looking out for that for next week. I believe we're showing The Princess Bride, which when we picked the movie did not have the same political implications that it now has, but it's still a beloved family movie that we thought many people could enjoy. So We're going to be making that free for all students, faculty, and staff who want to sign up on a first come, first served basis.
Good. Great. Thank you, Stephen. Other thoughts on the question, please? In this day and age, I never know if someone's talking while muted, so I'll give it a minute.
We did get a suggestion in the chat that while it's warm out, from Heather Mishket, that she thinks that doing something at Scissortail Park would be a welcome event.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, and with it being Oklahoma, I'm certain that the weather will change probably within the hour, but hopefully it'll warm up again, right? Okay, well, on that question, Dean House, I think we've got a number of good inputs. If you wouldn't mind, maybe take the lead on follow-up questions. We can send around a questionnaire to the entire student body, asking about maybe even a poll, right, where we can start to see what areas would interest them the most, and then we can try to put some structure. Like to Daniel's suggestion, that sounded a bit more like maybe student-led, right? There may be opportunities where they want to engage and we just kind of stay out of the way. But let's go ahead and contemplate what a questionnaire could look like and build off those ideas we've heard here, please. Okay. Are there any other pre-submitted questions? All right, hearing none, let's open the floor. Any other questions or thoughts that any students are having about this semester or the school experience, please? This is when I say there are no bad questions.
So I have a question, and this is a difficult question, I think. What is the faculty looking for in terms of coronavirus? You know, what's it going to take to go back to normal? And so, death rate, hospitalization rate, case count. What are you looking for, and at what point would you make a decision that we could go back to normal?
Yeah. So, thank you, Clay, for the question. The university's EOC, Emergency Operations Committee, is the body that is implementing policies and making decisions about what classes. We at the law school, because of our separate location, we're able to essentially customize our approach a little bit more, subject to the variance received by the ABA, which we submitted this summer. Let me turn to Dean Dalley to talk a little bit more specific to the faculty perspective. But what I've heard from them is that they want, obviously, the health and safety of our students to be first and foremost, and then the effectiveness of the legal education and its delivery is a very close second to that. But I'll lean on her for a second, and then we'll let Dean PRILLIMAN share any other perspectives from the EOC. Dean Dalley?
So I think what makes the biggest difference in the educational program is the social distancing requirements and the mask requirements, right? That's what makes the difference between a normal education, last year and this year, basically. And those are outside of our control primarily, right? The mask requirement is now from, the city mandatory, and the 6-foot social distancing requirement comes from the university, which of course is based on medical guidance. So if they told us we could start having classes with students only 3 feet away, that would make a huge difference in what we saw in the building. But that will be their decision, not our decision. So I think Dean PRILLIMAN can talk about the enormous number of factors that the EOC considers in their planning. But ultimately it's going to be about how safe it is for people to be near each other, right? That's really what it's going to take.
Yeah. Thank you. Dean PRILLIMAN?
Sure, just to follow up on that. I mean, the university we don't know really ultimately is the answer, but the university is following the guidance of public health officials from the State Department, County Health Department, CDC. And I think our policies right now are very similar to other schools and things in the area. So I don't know that there is a magic number that will hit when the CDC says it's okay, open it all back up. But, hopefully as we learn more, but I don't think we know quite yet.
Yeah. So Clay, I think your forecast about it being a tough question is still accurate, right? It's fact-based. and policies that are developed in reaction to the facts. So, but thank you for your question. Other comments or questions, please?
I have one.
Please.
So what type of feedback are y'all looking for from the classroom settings this semester as far as how y'all going to approach the next semester to make it better? And does the school plan on crashing through spring break as well to consolidate the schedule?
Yeah, DJ, thank you for your question. We were actually hoping to use today's conversation to initiate some feedback from you all as we are beginning to plan for the spring. Dean Dalley has raised the concept with the faculty in our faculty meeting last week. We told them about this gathering today. We'd like to hear from you all about what is working. We have a pretty good system now where individuals are sharing. We'd love to hear, your thoughts and others about that. One of the ideas is whether we ought to push back the start because of the 14-day quarantine period, for lack of a better phrase, right, which we hear from the CDC and others. Most people will travel away from their school housing situation, maybe home, or even just travel to another part of the state or country for the holidays. And then if they were to return, let's say January 1, you're still dealing with a start that's a week or two after our current calendared start. So that would be within that kind of risk window. And we thought about if that gets pushed back, would we then, I think, what was your phrase, run through or strike through?
Crash through.
Crash through, okay. Crash through spring break, which sounds like a completely different version of spring break than having to cancel it, right? But let me turn to Dean Dalley again, because she's begun giving this some thought. She's obviously responsible for all of the schedule issues for the coverage and the classes. So Dean Dalley, any additional thoughts you want to share to DJ's question?
We just formed a committee yesterday of faculty to look at some of these issues and gather thoughts. One of to me, the most important consideration is not having everyone back in the building before January 14th. I think that's, our current plan would be to be back in person on January 11th. I think that's really risky. That's my personal view. So there are a lot of things we can do other than crash through spring break, but that's certainly on the table. Because that also, spring break raises the question, then do we have to be online for 2 weeks after spring break while everyone, detoxes from whatever they caught while they were away for spring break? So I don't know the answer to that, but we're considering it. We're also considering things like, do we start the first 2 weeks of the semester online and then go to in person? My personal concern is what we're going to do about the classrooms, right? I think the classes that are in our standard classrooms are doing okay, but McLaughlin obviously has a lot of issues. And so we're thinking about alternative space, what we can do to enable classes to go forward, given the limited number of the zero number of large classrooms that we have now. So those are more physical plant type issues that we don't have any solutions for, but we're working on those.
And let me just add to that, that as you look at the forecast, you look at like Dr. Fauci's suggestion to hunker down for the fall and winter with the other seasonal flu issues anyway. We've also been looking at alternative spaces. Think Tower Theater on 23rd Street, think the OCU Boathouse along the river, right? We've been exploring these other ideas, just trying to manage what would be a place that could be a safe space to gather for our students, have parking and all the rest. So that is obviously on the table as well. DJ, do you have a preference about how we would approach the spring semester? I'll let you fully off the hook here.
Definitely. So one thing that I saw from what's coming from the fall semester is that I think that it would have been wonderful for it to transition strictly online or with the alternative spaces for more reading and for the final exam. So that way more time can be allocated to study for it. So that way, based on the instructor's preference, that you can provide that alternative space if you want the students to be face-to-face, but also be on Exemplify. And so for spring break, I think that also would be helpful for the 2 weeks afterwards for it to go online and then transition back into the classroom so everybody can quarantine or something in particular of that nature.
Okay.
And not having
Yeah, thank you.
no problem. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Other comments or questions associated with how the fall semester is going from your experience and thoughts that you'd like to recommend for the spring?
So on the spring break thing, I think that it's very nice to have that break. You know, working through Labor Day was not my favorite thing to do, but I know it had to be done. And I just think that, like, I know, like, especially with the 1Ls, you guys are going to be writing your briefs during that time. And I know that that was like spring break was really a critical time for me to do that. So, you know, I think maybe a shortened one would be fine, but I think like eliminating it entirely is kind of, it's just going to like sort of burn the candle at both ends. But that's just for spring break.
Yeah, thank you. Other comments, please? Well, this was an open question, so beyond today's session, please, if you would, send emails to any of the members of the Admin Council or to me directly, certainly. We want your input. That's the purpose of today. Dean Dalley and I have talked about a goal of October 2nd to try to make a decision for the spring so that space and planning and your own schedules can have as much lead time as possible. That's a soft deadline, so if we have to ask your forgiveness to extend it, please do. But that's the next regularly scheduled faculty meeting where we will seek input. John Dittmers has a question. Oh, okay. I won't let him unmute. Do you want to type your question via chat, John? While John is doing that, are there other comments or questions, please?
I had another question. I have a couple of professors who have scheduled things on Saturday, and I just didn't know if that is like something that they're going to get pre-approval for, or if it's just a hard no.
When you say pre-approval, meaning can faculty do that?
Correct. Like, are they like, because I know my fob doesn't work on the weekend. So my concern is if he scheduled something on a Saturday, I would physically be locked out of the building and would be unable to attend the class.
Yeah, no, my understanding is that your fob would be enabled for those types of courses, but let me defer to Dean Dalley.
We had some conversations about things happening on Saturdays, and my view was they shouldn't. So, but not everybody tells me what they're planning, surprisingly enough. So we obviously, if someone has something planned and that is going to go forward, we'd let people into the building. But part of the reason for the weekend closed is for cleaning and to have the air settling. So I'm hoping there won't be a lot of things happening on the weekends. I'm not sure that all the faculty quite got that message, so that might be a problem.
I had a student in my clinic today mention, and he has some of those classes that sometimes meet on Friday. He told me we were going through it, and he said, "Oh, I've got a Saturday coming up." So would you mind sharing, the student that was just speaking, what class that was? And I'll also find out from my students so we can, maybe Dean Dalley can check with the faculty member. And if it's going to happen, we don't want anybody locked out of the building, of course.
Yeah, I can do that. It was for a trial practice class, and he's an adjunct professor. And we said we're not sure if we're able to get in, and he said that he was going to check it out. I was just wondering if that was something that was happening regularly or not.
Yeah. Well, Daniel, not to our knowledge, but we will check that out. Although it does raise a real life question. I actually remember as a young lawyer being in a trial that spilled over into Saturday and the courthouse was locked. So we're just preparing you in every way we can imagine, right? Unintended, yeah. I just had a chance to call John Dittmers and visit and got his question, which is, we're a month in, there are still challenges associated with how courses are being handled in McLaughlin? At what point and under maybe what final effort will we decide to move those courses online? So I think, Dean Dalley, that may be a question. I know you're adjusting some policies and trying some things, and I'm brave enough to admit when they're not working. We've taken the curtains down today as well. So do you have a thought as to when we've tried enough and maybe need to do something different with those courses that are currently meeting in McLaughlin?
Well, having taught a large class on Zoom last spring, I think that's an absolute positively last resort. It was lousy, and there was very little that I could do to make it not lousy. And I know that there are faculty who think they can do it. And I'm, not going to say that if I can't do it, no one can do it, but I'm really not